An artist is what I say. This guy came from Pennsylvania. As you can see, and those that know him well, he experiments in a variety of styles and media, including painting, drawing, videography, toy design, which I think is so fascinating, collage, stop motion animation, and more. But Ben's also an accomplished teacher, as much as he is an artist. He has a master's in visual culture and education from the University of Arizona. And when he came here, he was teaching at Bothwell Middle School in 2019. And then COVID happened. And artists are so incredible how they adapt and change and pivot when a situation presents itself. And like a lot of the creatives during COVID, he didn't miss a beat. And you'll probably be able to correct me, but that's when you started Shape and Sound, which is his online art school. And that's when I got acquainted with Ben. So he is the founder and art teacher for Shape and Sound Arts Academy with his friend, Shape and Sound partner, Patrick Booth, where they design and build online classes for ages 9 through 14. So they also have in-person camps, which I think we have some maybe young people here that participated at a camp at Campfire Co-works, but also online classes. But also Ben is really community-minded. He applied to, the Public Art Commission did a Words to Live and Bike By project where there are words in the bike path. And Ben had this wonderful application. He talked about that, where was his quote here? As someone whose life would have been unfathomably different if not for the bicycle, and also as someone who likes to make big pieces of art. And then he wanted to talk about, is it Rene Magritte? Mm-hmm. Empire of Light. So his word dream, near where the playground is inspired by this work of art by a French artist. And it's really beautiful. It's one of the most artful pieces that's out there. So that's when I met him, and then I thought he was so cool, I just hung out and sat by him while he worked. That was really fun. I stenciled, I did a little bit. He did that, but then he also did a bunch of Art Week programs last summer. As a team, you would see them in their red jumpsuits everywhere around downtown. And then he also made Arts Quest. It's out there, it's a booklet, so if you, as an adult, child, all ages, take the Art Week Art Quest book and go explore Marquette. And he really pushes you to teach something to kind of challenge yourself and access a part of your creativity that maybe you've forgotten, or sometimes you take yourself so seriously and don't have fun. And I guess lastly, I would love to say that this is playful, joyful, and full of curiosity. And he describes his work that way, but that's very much how he is as a person too. We are so fortunate to have you in our community, and thank you for putting together this incredible exhibit.
Thank you.
And now he's going to say a few words about himself and his work. Thanks, and you have an opportunity to ask questions.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Before I get too much into trying to explain what this is all about, I do want to give a few thank yous. First, most of all, to my wife, Madeline. You get to be kind of a crazy person in those last days of getting ready for an exhibit. For me, maybe the last weeks and months, whatever. And she is patient and helps me recenter when I'm panicking or freaking out about something. So this is all thanks to her. I also really want to thank Carol Phillips for asking me to put this exhibit together and helping me with it, and also kind of helping me when I'm freaking out or panicking about something. And to everyone else that's part of the arts and culture group here. Everybody's been so supportive and so helpful and just helping out in any way that they can. So when I first started thinking about what can I do for this, with this opportunity to have an exhibit, to really get my work on display in what I think is the nicest space in Marquette. It's great in here. I thought, do I want to showcase kind of a collection of my work from my whole career, or what do I want to do? And it felt important for me to make the exhibit focus on ideas I was thinking about in the moment. And kind of in the moment and in these moments that we've been thinking about for the last, about 2 years now, I've really been trying to combine my efforts as an artist and as a teacher into kind of one thing as much as possible. It doesn't always work that cleanly, so, you know, sometimes you have to focus on things more as an artist or more as a teacher. You know, when I think about this exhibit, in some ways it feels like a slightly maybe overpacked curriculum that I threw too many ideas into, but then maybe the artist side of me is just like, well, let's just do it and see what happens, and, you know, worst case scenario, we'll learn something from it. And I think these ideas started with what was my effort to be simplifying things a little bit and to actually be a little bit more of a minimalist, but my maximalist ways take over, and we're where we're at. But I started with just, I want to work with a very specific color scheme, just as like, I don't know, a challenge for myself. I'm usually all over the place with colors, and I also kind of thought practically, because I do tend to like dabble here and there on different projects, well, if everything's using the same colors of paint, it makes it easy to do that. But then as I was kind of playing with that idea, I was also kind of playing around with some of these kind of three-dimensional sculptures that are just based on some geometric patterns, and every time I came up with some, I made one, it came out a little bit different. And I was kind of doing these sculptures and using these colors, and as I was doing that, I kind of also figured out a way to turn one of them into a pattern so I could reproduce that shape and do it over and over again. And it kind of gave me this idea of trying to, and again, you know, sometimes we have these efforts as an artist and that's not necessarily where we go, but I had this idea of, can I take abstraction in like a different way? You know, we're always kind of start with like an idea and it gets more abstract from there. But I thought, what if I start with something that's just an abstract shape? Can I give that meaning, and can I make that meaning mean something for other people? So I had this idea of, if I can reproduce the shape, what if I invite other people to reproduce that shape as well? And see what they could do with it. They could put their own twist on it or whatever. And yeah, and then kind of as I was developing that idea, I knew I needed to get other, you know, if I want other people to make that shape, how do I tell them about it? And I did some stuff online to promote it, but the idea that was kind of the most entertaining to me is to make flyers in kind of a very silly kind of way. And as soon as I came up with the idea of a flyer that says free shapes, or free shape, or whatever, however I decided to word it, it reminded me of a friend of mine. And that's where the name Dave comes from. Because I was thinking about, well, what am I going to call this shape? I knew I didn't want to give it like a mathematic name. I wanted to kind of, you know, every shape that we're familiar with, we understand it in mathematical principles. So I wanted to give it a name for a different reason. So yeah, I thought about this friend of mine, Dave, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. He passed away a long time ago, sadly, in a car accident. But he was an incredible artist. He was the first person I knew that was like into graffiti. And he was just like the nicest, like most generous person that I had known. And he was such a great artist. And he just had this sense of humor. So as soon as I thought of the idea of putting flyers around town that said free shape, I was like, oh, Dave would have found that funny. So I decided to name these shapes Dave, because there is this graffiti element of, you know, putting the flyers around town is kind of this weird street art thing. Reproducing these is kind of this way of like figuring out a tag in a way. And then it's just also a way for me to kind of connect back with him. It's, you know, I talk to his mom occasionally, and I've told her about this and she just loves it. So it's just been a neat way of me kind of celebrating Dave in this other way and inviting other people to kind of embrace that a bit. So instead of naming these shapes after a mathematical principle, I say they're named for their sense of humor, because they kind of have a Dave sense of humor about them. So yeah, then I was making these shapes, I was using these colors, and then the flyers from the Dave shape gave me the idea to do the flyers for the color thing. So I kind of went back and forth between the projects, and I put some of those around town. And I'm just always kind of looking, you know, with this effort of trying to be an artist and a teacher at the same time, I'm trying to always look for other ways to invite other people in and see what they can do with these ideas. And, you know, with who I am as an artist and who I am as a teacher, I just think it's so utterly important for us as humans to embrace some sort of creative habit. I think the more we think about how to create, we tend to not want to destroy things, and I think we just live in a better world when we're surrounded by people that want to create. I know I'm preaching to the choir right here, but that's kind of a big motivation for me. So yeah, this exhibit just kind of came together a little bit at a time. I felt the need to incorporate the maze thing as well, because that's kind of where a lot of this sort of interactive art for me started. And again, that was sort of something I stumbled upon. I was telling somebody else about this earlier. You know, when I first started drawing mazes way back, I think like my sophomore year of college, I was just doodling. I was just like killing time between classes, just doing these like, patterns with one continuous line in notebooks. And it just took a friend of mine to say, "Are you drawing a maze?" And I said, "No, but let me think about it for a second." And I kind of figured out what I needed to change about what I was doing to turn it into a maze. And then the kind of trick that I found from that versus every other drawing I was doing, you do another sort of drawing of work of art, you show it to someone, they like it, they don't like it, they look at it for about 5 seconds. But if you give them a maze that they want to solve, they kind of have to look at it for at least 30 seconds. So, as somebody 20 years old, just desperate for anybody to pay attention to my art, mazes really kind of clicked something for me. And every time I feel like I've done enough mazes, there's like something else comes up, or there's a new idea, or there's just a big wall that somebody's going to let me put a big maze on it. And I just always take that opportunity. So yeah, mazes have just kind of always popped in and out of my work. And yeah, and then I just tried to put all of these ideas together into one exhibit as much as I could. Also incorporating a little bit of animation, just because that's just fun for me. I don't know what else to say about that. And yeah, I know I had 8 million things that I wanted to say about all of this, but I think that sums it up pretty good.
You're talking about combining your art and your teaching. I wonder if do you possibly see this exhibit like going on the road for maybe other teachers to use your ideas and concepts to teach their own groups?
I mean, I would be open to something like that. Certainly, I think one way that this exhibit is different than other things I've done is it was kind of put as like, these projects aren't done. This is like maybe an interval. This is like a way to kind of share these ideas, and they could kind of go on for any one of these projects could keep going on and on and on. And I don't know, that tends to be a theme in my work too, where I come up with these project ideas that, yeah, kind of can go into the infinite a little bit. So, I mean, I would be open to something like that, certainly. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, Gene.
So I was looking at your mazes.
Yes.
And there were some shapes, especially around the wiggles that are around, and the arrows that really reminded me of like Keith Haring. You were talking about being like this is influenced by graffiti, or Dave was.
Yeah.
And I wondered, what it feels like to be street art in a gallery. Is it odd to see your work in a white space? Is this representative of what's going on for you, or are you more comfortable?
It's a little different for me. I would say, I've had a few works of art that I've been lucky enough to get into some fancier exhibits. I was lucky enough to have a piece at Divas last year. But yeah, most of my experience in making art and showing art is like in the back of a punk venue or the basement of a friend of mine or something like that. So this is a little bit different. I'm not against it. It's a different sort of space, and I love the way at least this body of work looks here. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm comfortable in a couple different spaces. This is a little new for me. Yeah. And then to comment a little bit about like maybe the street art or Keith Haring thing, I've certainly heard that before. And Keith Haring's from Kutztown, Pennsylvania. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania. They're like 15 minutes away. I don't know if there's something in the water. It's not an intentional thing, but I'll take it. I love Keith Haring, but yeah, not really a specific intentional thing. Thanks. Anybody else?
Can you tell people, sorry.
Sure.
I know the answer, but can you tell people how to participate moving
Oh, yeah.
forward?
So most of the participation stuff are on the 3 pedestals here. There's cards. So if you're interested in doing that, have you seen this color? The basic idea behind that is just very simple. Observe and try to look for things that are those colors. You can post pictures on social media. You can send pictures to me via email. If you have my phone number, you can text them to me. I'm fine with that too. And we are going to add to these walls as the month goes. So The more people send in pictures, the more these walls will get filled up. If you really need to do something tonight, you're welcome to cut things out of the magazines that match the colors as well. We got some cool stuff happening there. And yeah, just kind of a way of kind of connecting people to the work through the colors. The maze thing, so there's the big maze there, but the kind of ongoing project I have going is inviting people to make sections of a maze, and then using that template, I can add all the mazes together and make one big giant. I don't know what the long-term goal of that one is yet. The very rough goal is, so I've oddly gotten to know a handful of other maze artists all over the place, and some of them, there's like 4 people that I've emailed with that have at one point or another had the world record for the largest hand-drawn maze. And I have no interest in trying to beat that record because I'd probably have to chop my hand off at the end of that. But I think maybe collaboratively I would be into that. So maybe with the help of other people, we could make a bigger maze than that person. But it's a very open-ended, ambitious goal. We'll see where we can go with it. And then lastly, there are some patterns there that you can make your own Dave. The idea is you just glue the sheet of paper to a piece of cardboard, and then you cut the shapes out, and then you crease them in a certain way, and then you can tape them together and make your own Dave. Most of these, aside from a few, have been finished with paper mache, but I'm certainly curious of what other ways people would finish their Dave, if you will. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. Yes?
Do you have like a maze drawing formula, or?
There's kind of a pattern to it, and there's a couple different ways that you can draw mazes. And you know, I've done lots of different mazes in different ways before. Sometimes I do them in a very planned out, specific way, and sometimes there's even like a hidden message. Sometimes the maze looks like something. This one, I just did it very free form. There's no hidden message. I believe it's solvable. I haven't double checked it myself yet. But yeah, based on the kind of pattern that I use, it should be solvable. Yeah.
Amelia, do you have a question?
Yes.
What's your favorite color of the 5 colors?
It's a tough one, and it changes. I think what's been interesting in working with these 5 colors is seeing how sometimes just 2 of the colors work together, and depending how I'm using the colors in a certain piece, like almost 3 of the colors can almost appear purple if in the right light and circumstance. But I've really, I'm gonna pick one up. I've really become attached to this color. And it's like kind of the calming color in all of them. It's often the color that once I put that in there, I'm like, oh, that piece feels at peace now. So I try not to pick favorites, but that one's been helpful. We'll say that one's been very helpful.
They are still for sale, so you could talk to Kristen, Amelia, or myself if you would like to purchase your own Dave.
Hey Ben, I was
Yes.
curious, you mentioned one of your ongoing projects, but do you have any other big upcoming projects that you might want to break about?
Any upcoming projects? Not particularly. I was kind of just aiming at getting to this exhibit, and you know, these projects are potentially ongoing. I certainly have lots more ideas for Daves up in my brain floating around, and lots more things I want to do with animation, but nothing very specific yet. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for coming.